Okay, so we're going to talk about compound inequalities, which is when we basically know multiple things about our x value. So in the case of my example written here, what I've written is the same thing as saying 2 is less than 3x minus 1 and 3x minus 1 is less than or equal to 11. So this is an and statement. To solve this, when I add 1, I have to add 1 to all three sides. So I have 3 less than 3x less than or equal to 12. And then when I divide by 3, I have to divide by 3 on all sides. So I have 1 less than x less than or equal to 4 as my final answer. And that's basically the same thing as saying x has to be greater than 1 and x has to be less than or equal to 4. So I've already written this as an inequality, but how do I graph that? I'm going to draw my number line, put my two values on my number line, and then I have to decide whether I'm going to put open circles on those values or closed circles. So here at x at 1, I know that x has to be greater than 1. That means that 1 is not included, so I put an open circle there. But x could be less than or equal to negative 4, which means 4 could be an answer here because of that equals. So I'm going to put a closed circle there, and then I'm going to start shading, so I know that x has to be greater than 1, but I also know it has to be less than or equal to 4, so I'm only going to shade the numbers between 1 and 4, and those are all of our possible values. Finally, to write an interval notation, I'm going to put my smallest value, parentheses my largest value, so that's 1 and 4 in this case. And then I have to decide whether to put parentheses or brackets. So around the 1, I'm going to put parentheses because 1 is not included as a solution. Around the 4, I'm going to put a bracket because 4 is included on the solution. So basically the less than equals or greater than equals, the closed circle, and the brackets all go together. And then the less than or the greater than, the open circle, and the parentheses all kind of go together, usually. In the case of the infinity, like, you're always going to have parentheses. Okay, so this is an and statement. We also are going to work with or statements, so either this is true or this is true. But we need to solve these first to really understand what we're working with. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides and then divide by 2. So I know that x could be less than negative 5 over 2, and then I'm going to solve this one. And when I divide by negative 5, remember I have to flip the sign. So x is either less than negative 5 over 2 or x is greater than 6. So that's how I write it as an inequality. But let's put it on a number line. So I'm going to put my two numbers down, negative 5/2 and 6. Now both of these have, or this x has to be greater than 6, that means 6 itself is not included, open circle, or it could be less than negative 5/2. Again, negative 5/2 not included, so I get an open circle. And then I shade to the right because it could be greater than this, and I shade to the left of negative 5/2 because it could be less than this. So it's either in this interval or it's in that interval. Now, to write this in interval notation, I'm going to have 2 intervals because we're working with 2 intervals now. So over here, it could be negative infinity to negative 5/2, and over here it could be 6 to infinity. So around my infinities, I'm going to put parentheses. And then because negative 5/2 is not included in my solution, parentheses. And because 6 is not included in my solution, I'm going to put parentheses. And then finally, I just need to put a u between these. So u just basically means union. And it basically means, yeah, it could be this, but it could also be that. So that's how I write it in interval notation. So any of these 3 answers would work unless I specifically specify which notation.